Setting our long term goals when we're feeling emotionally stable and our stress hormones are lower and our brain, our prefrontal cortex is working at a more optimal level, your motivation shifts from an external pressure to an internal drive, which will increase the success rate of your goals and actually achieving them when you're doing it from a value base as opposed to doing it from guilt or social pressure or the fear of falling behind. Do you want to achieve your goals, but anxiety is tripping you up? Like to keep those fun weekend plans, but depression has you counseling again? Hey, I'm Lori, dog mom, lover of nature, and hygge enthusiast. Positive psychology skills help me overcome chronic severe PTSD. If you're ready to learn how to overcome your anxiety and depression and rediscover happiness and purpose in life, then get your cozy on and let's get started. Helping you to discover what works best for you and your own body rhythms, the techniques that will work for you and how to adapt them and adjust them. That's a lot of what I do in the one-on-one coaching is to help you to establish and create coping strategies that are very customized to your own personality. And you can get some of that coaching if you reach out. You can schedule a one-on-one coaching session. Contact me at calendly.com/practical solutions for PTSD. That's calendly.com/practical solutions for PTSD. You can schedule your 60-minute session and we'll start helping you work and develop those wins in your own life. And we often hear that January is the moment to get serious. Set your New Year resolutions, create these new goals, step into what you want to do for the future, have your 5-year plan all laid out. Now, last week, I dropped an episode that talked about whether or not January really is the right month to do that. Do we really want to rethink that? Because biologically speaking, for the large majority of us, January isn't the best month to do that. We're in the middle of winter, especially for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. It's cold, it's dark, and biologically speaking, we're not in a position to set really good, wise goals and ones that are value based. We may be pressured into setting some goals that we feel like we should set or that are socially acceptable or ones that we're guilt tripping ourselves into doing. But the ones that where we're really motivated and we have that drive inside, we don't have the emotional capacity to feel that way. And so is January really the best time to do this? And after the episode last week, and also there's a post I put on Facebook and which was dealt with this concept, and it generated a lot of conversation, which has been super interesting and I've really enjoyed. And it highlights the fact that not everybody is the same. So for me, January and February are two of the toughest months to make it through, generally speaking. They're cold, they're dark. It's like the height of seasonal affective disorder. And so it can be a really, really hard time. And it takes a lot of energy to be able to sustain just the basic mood during these times. But for other people, their dark months are different. So I talked to one person, like the worst month of the year for her is October. And when she hits January, she's like, yay, we're past the winter equinox. The days are getting longer. We're going to get more sun right around the corner. And so she's motivated to get going because spring is coming. I talked to another person where January, February is her way of pulling inward is to work. This is her opportunity to work on herself because her family is not going everywhere. They're not going to different directions right now. They're slower. They have fewer activities. And so she's finally able to sit down and work on her personal goals and to lay some of that out and to achieve some of those things that she's wanting to work towards. So this is a fantastic time for her to do that for herself. And then I have another friend of mine, I tease her often that her decade in Alaska kind of warped her personality. That decade was a very good time for her. And so she associates that darkness and cold with her time in Alaska, which was very good. And so she loves this time of year and she's more motivated. She has more energy. Now her work can take it out of her, but as far as normal life, she has more energy during this time and she really enjoys it. And so this is not a bad time for her. But if you have someone who's dealing with seasonal affective disorder that is tied to winter and fall, or if you have someone dealing with PTSD and darkness could be triggering some of those anxiety things, or if you have grief this time of year that is really hitting you hard. There's so many things during the winter months that make it harder. It's harder on animals, it's harder on our vehicles, it's harder on us. It can be a really tough time. And so when you're struggling just to maintain the status quo, is this really the best time to set goals and to decide where you want to be in 5 years? Maybe it's not so much that your motivation is low or you're undisciplined. Maybe it's just biologically the wrong season for you to do this because your nervous system is in winter. And winter is a time of hibernation, it's a time of slowness, of introspection. So maybe biologically, this isn't the greatest time for you. I alluded to this last week. In fact, I gave you a little disclosure last week. But biologically speaking, the best time to set your goals for 12 months or for however long that long-term goal is going to take is late spring to early summer. It's the most supportive time to set long-term goals, especially goals that require sustained energy, because it takes sustained energy to change, to expand, to be consistent at hard things, to take those hard steps. It takes energy to do that. So it's not necessarily about willpower. It's about getting your brain and your nervous system functions where it functions at its peak for those kind of decisions. Now, there are some things personally I find January to be good for. One is to start a Bible reading plan because it just naturally fits in January 1st to December 31st. You have 365 days. It just fits perfectly. And so starting a Bible reading plan at the beginning of the year fits really, really well. And I can do it with my church members who do it at the same time. We can all do it together. And so there's that additional motivation. And it's enough of accountability. It gets me up and going when I just really want to crawl under a blanket and hibernate. So it's just a tiny bit, just that little bit of social pressure to get me going, but not so overwhelming that I can't handle it. Another thing that I really like to do in January is to get my diet back to status quo. And that's the key, status quo. The months of November, late November and through December, my eating habits are not the same as normal. Like I don't normally eat these many quote treats or sugar or whatever special dishes. I don't go to that many corporate meals. All that stuff is in addition to what I normally do. So come January, I find it very encouraging and sustaining for me to get back to my normal eating habits. So things like that for January is actually really good for me because it gets the junk cleaned out of my system, gets me back to where I should be, back to my normal eating, back to my normal sleeping habits because I'm not staying up late talking to people or vacationing. It gets me back to that normal routine. But that's the key. It's normal. This is stuff I've been doing for all the months prior to the holidays, and it's stuff I struggled to keep up with over the holidays, but come January, it's time to settle back into that comfortable, this is where I feel good routine. So getting my sleep back into routine, getting my food back into routine, getting my water consumption back into that comfortable routine. So those kind of things work really well in January, but if it's going to be something that's going to require a lot of thought and a lot of heart and trying to figure out what I want to do and how to move forward, January is not the time to do that because my brain just wants to crawl under a blanket and be cozy. It's not a time for me to push that part of my body and my brain. So let's talk about why timing matters more than discipline. Now, there are 4 things that are happening in your body as the seasons shift that make timing more important than discipline in your goal setting. Number 1 is light comes first. So as the daylight increases in the spring, your circadian rhythm starts to stabilize. Your melatonin's going down, your serotonin is going up. And so sleep becomes more consistent during those times. Now, as I've mentioned this before, but with seasonal affective disorder in the wintertime, all you want to do is sleep. Like you're constantly, it's what you want to do. You have to fight against this all the time. And so as you're getting closer to spring, that's beginning to level itself out. So before your motivation shows up to accomplish your long-term goals, regulation shows up. And regulation creates cognitive flexibility, and you need that to be able to set effective goals. The ability to imagine the future, to feel a sense of possibility rather than pressure. Because we don't want to set goals all because of pressure. We want to set them for something that we truly value, value-based goals, and that'll get us much further down the road. So these are the raw materials for long-term goal planning or long-term planning, long-term goal setting. The second thing is your stress hormones begin to settle. So when your body is going through a season that is really difficult for it, whether that's because of the literal season that we're in, December, January, February, or if you're dealing with trauma or you're dealing with grief, whatever it could be, your stress hormones are going to be higher, especially for those people that are dealing with those trauma triggers or PTSD or anxiety, seasonal depression. So by late spring, many nervous systems experience more baseline regulation. So your stress hormones are beginning to come down because you're not having those consistent triggers that you have in the wintertime. So there's a little more capacity to tolerate uncertainty. And let's just face it, long-term goals are full of uncertainty. You know what you want to achieve, but you don't know all that's going to happen between now and achieving it. None of us know the future. So dealing with that uncertainty, it takes a lot of emotional capacity that you just don't have when your stress hormones are elevated. So if your system doesn't feel safe, it doesn't want to plan forward. And this isn't a resistance or a lack of motivation or lack of discipline. It's protection. Your body is protecting itself and conserving your emotional resources to delegate to where it's needed most during this time. The third thing that's happening is your executive function improves. So anytime you're doing long-term goal setting, long-term planning, you need to be able to prioritize and sustain effort during that time. And all of this relies on the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that helps make those decisions and make those executive decisions for your body, for your life. You need that part of the brain working optimally. And when it's on lack of sleep or you're dealing with the stress of whatever, it isn't. So that part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, works best when sleep, light exposure, and mood are more stable. And the conditions that naturally improve in the spring and the summer is exactly that. You have better sleep, you have more light exposure, and your mood stabilizes. So if your brain is feeling foggy or overwhelmed, it may not be a mindset problem. It could just be seasonal biology. And just a sidebar here, not everybody's seasonal biology responds the same. There's a large majority of people, the larger majority, that have fall or winter seasonal affective disorder, but there's a small majority that has spring-summer seasonal affective disorder. So this isn't going to be the same for you if you fall in the latter category. So just keep that in mind. But you can take the principles of what we're talking about and adapt it to yourself. All right, so the fourth thing that is going on is you have motivational shifts from pressure to pull. So goal setting in January is often driven by urgency, by guilt, or fear of falling behind. So, it's January. What are your goals? What are your New Year's resolutions? What are you going to try to accomplish this year? There's guilt because you feel like you should do X, Y, and Z, or you're behind on last year, or whatever it could be. And there's also all the friends around you and the people around you. They're talking about all the things they want to accomplish, and all you want to do is crawl in a hole. So there's a fear of falling behind your peers. Goal setting in late spring tends to be value-based. So instead of being driven by urgency, guilt, or fear of falling behind, these are the goals that are based on what you value and what you truly want to achieve. And they come from curiosity, from desire, from a sense of agency where you're choosing, this is what I want. Or, how about if we did this? Or what would it look like if we did that? So instead of pushing yourself forward, you feel drawn towards something from inside. There's that draw inside to be able to accomplish X, Y, and Z. And that difference matters. It's very, very important. So just a quick review, the four things. You have light that comes first that helps stabilize your system. Your stress hormone drops which gives you the resources you need to be able to handle the uncertainty of long-term goal setting. Your executive function improves your prefrontal cortex. It's not, your brain's not depleting resources to handle the stress. And fourth, your motivation shifts from pressure to pull. And this will increase the effectiveness of your goal setting and make it much more in line with what you truly want, and it'll be the most effective for you. So looking at it through this lens, here's kind of an outline of what you're going to do that is based on seasons. So winter is stabilize, rest, protect, and maintain. You're going to take all those things that you've been working on in the 9 months before this, and you're going to stabilize that, protect it. You're going to spend some time resting and restoring and rejuvenating the body. You're going to protect those goals, protect yourself, protect your body, protect your mind, and maintain the ground that you've gained. Just maintaining is huge. If you can just maintain, that's a big, big win. Early spring, this is where you're going to start reflecting on what you want to accomplish. You're going to notice the desires that you have in the heart and maybe what you've prayed about and what God has put on your heart. You can start imagining what this could be like because you have the capacity to do that now. Late spring, you're ready to lay those goals out. You're ready to set those long-term goals and to identify the steps you want to take and to be able to start moving forward in that. Come summertime, you're ready to act. Man, you're ready to start knocking them out. You can start experimenting with what works and what doesn't work, nailing down those things that work, expanding a little bit further on them, building momentum, being able to achieve that dream. Come fall, you start refining those things. Like, okay, this didn't work, so I need to fix that just a little bit and tweak it. Or maybe I need to go a completely different direction. We're going to adjust this. You're going to harvest the benefits of what you've been doing, and you're going to adjust and adapt. And you're like, okay, I need to tweak this a little bit. Getting up at 5:30 just isn't working so good for me. So maybe I need to adjust that to 6 o'clock. However, whatever your goals are, just adapting and adjusting a little bit to make it fit with who you are and what you want to achieve. So winter keeps you alive. Spring shows you what you want. And summer gives you the energy to pursue it. And come fall, you're reaping the benefits of all of that. And none of these seasons are an optional thing. This is something where how your body is responding. And if this isn't exactly how your body responds to seasons, just adapt it for what works for you. But take into account there's going to be a time when you need to stabilize and rest and then reflect and then start setting those goals and then reaching out to achieve them. And if this is the seasonal pattern that you're on, it doesn't mean that you're behind. It just means that you're paying attention to your body and you're adapting and working towards that so you have the greatest impact on your goals. For the trauma-impacted nervous system, setting big goals too early can actually trigger anxiety and can shut you down or cause shame. So when you're trying to set those long-term goals and try to come up with the motivation and the discipline to carry them out, when you're not emotionally ready to do that, you're actually causing more harm. And so it's better if you just hold off a little bit and nurture your system when it needs it and then set those goals and act on it when you're ready to roll out. So wait until your system has more light, more warmth, and it feels safest. It isn't avoidance. It's taking care of yourself. This is biological timing, figuring out what works best for your body, your mind, and your heart. So if you are in January or mid-January right now, you're like, I don't have my 5-year plan yet. It's okay. You're not failing adulthood, I promise. Your nervous system just may simply be in wintertime, and you need to let it be. Don't force something out of it that will end up dying prematurely. So what do you do instead in January, February? If winter isn't for long-term goal setting, what is it for? So here's some ideas. Instead of goals, try intentional care, not outcomes. How can I take care of myself right now so that I'm putting myself in a position for success come spring, summer, fall? It's a time for constraints of what you won't do instead of ambitions. So there are certain things that I just don't do in the wintertime because it's not a great time for me to do that. Maybe not set up this huge party circuit because you're just not up to doing that or whatever it could be. Just setting those constraints in place to help protect your nervous system and protect your heart and mind. And the third thing is stabilizers. So things like sleep, warmth, routine, all these things that you have in place that help your system feel more stable and more cared for instead of stretch goals. So instead of stretching yourself, you're going to work on stabilizing and maintaining. And you're not losing ground. I promise. You're not falling behind. You're actually preparing the groundwork so that when your nervous system is ready, you're ready to start rolling out. And you're not depleted and down when you hit those times. So you want to be able to be intentional in your care, put some constraints in place, and stabilize so that your resources are in place to aim forward when you hit the time when you can do it the most successfully. So you don't need to force clarity out of a tired nervous system. If your nervous system is tired, let it rest and nurture it. You don't need to rush growth in a season that's built for rest. When your body is ready to plan, you'll feel it. It's not a pressure driving you. You'll have something inside pulling you towards it. So until then, just stay steady. It's not a waste of time, I promise. This is very beneficial. It will actually make that time when you're ready to set the goals much more beneficial. It's all part of the cycle. Just respect it, embrace it, and take care of yourself. A quick reminder that you can schedule your personal one-on-one coaching session by going to calendly.com/practical solutions for PTSD. That's calendly.com/practical solutions for PTSD. Hey, my friend, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with someone you know who may be struggling with depression and anxiety? Also, would you please leave a quick review for the show? Knowing how this podcast is helping you fills my heart with so much joy, and it motivates me for future episodes. For now, it's time for Sam and I to head outside to enjoy some sunshine and fresh air. We'll see you back here on Tuesdays and Thursdays for more great episodes.